go ahead.
Well, hi, everyone. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Nick. Hi, Calvin.
Hey, Nora.
Hi, Calvin's
Hello.
baby.
Yeah, this is the baby.
They're so glad everybody made it. I assume, Sarah, are we streaming live on YouTube?
YouTube and Facebook.
Awesome. All right. So Mike was cool enough to lend us his podcast for an afternoon because, and I asked Mike about it. I said, are you going to be here? He said, no. He said, but I think that the people in Region 2 should know what their options are for NBA. And so Nick was the first one that volunteered to hop up on the podcast and ask some questions or answer some questions. But if you have questions for us, we'll answer them. And just for transparency's sake, we did offer this to Debbie too. We offered her an opportunity to be on this podcast right now with us at the same time to answer the same questions asked of Nick or to respond directly to Nick's answers. Debbie respectfully declined, which is her right, but that's why she's not here. So I've got Calvin with me.
Hey,
Calvin
everyone.
is also part of Region 2. He wants to say hi.
Hi, everyone. Hey, Nick. Hey,
Hey,
Sarah.
Calvin.
Yeah, I'm Calvin Rich, carrier from Linwood Post Office and a member of Seattle Branch 79. And yeah, Nora invited me here to ask Nick, some questions. And yeah, happy to help. So thanks for having me. Yeah.
So we took all of your questions. We submitted the form out there. It's completely anonymous. Nick doesn't know what the questions are. He doesn't know who's going to be asking them or who asked those questions, who submitted them for us to ask. There were some duplicate questions. We're not going to ask the same question twice. And if you didn't properly fill out the form, you will not get your question asked. But we only had one instance of one person who didn't properly fill out the form. We were unable to vet whether or not they were a member of Region 2, which we did through a source other than Nick that does not talk to Nick. And everything that is left is in a bowl. So Calvin and I took all the questions. We cut them up. And we are going to pull from them and ask them one at a time. Nick, did you want to introduce yourself or say anything before we get started?
Sure. I'm Nick Vafiades, the National Business Agent in Region 2. I was elected in 2018 as the business agent. Unfortunately, this is not my first election as a business agent. In 2018, I had an opponent, so there was an election in Region 2 for that one as well. Yeah, I was surprised Mike wasn't going to be here when he asked me, to come on the podcast. I thought, we're going to sit there and talk and about some stuff that's going on, but that's fine. And then he did tell me, he's going to have people from Region 2 asking questions. So yeah, I'm fine with the format. And I knew I'm not hearing this for the first time. I don't want anybody to get that wrong. He did tell me after I accepted that this is how it's going to go. So I'm fine with it. Absolutely. But I don't get to talk to Mike.
No, you got to talk to me. You got to talk to Calvin.
Mike does enough talking for both of us, so we're good.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I was looking forward to that. I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to get to see two business agents sort of chopping it up, like, on one of these podcasts and stuff. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm going to be asking the questions? That's not. But hey, it is what it is.
That's how that works,
happy,
though.
I'm happy to help. Yeah.
We get volunteered a lot.
Yeah, we get voluntold a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's good work. I'm good with it.
Oh, yeah.
So, hi, Muffin. She just took her pass out. You going to ask some questions?
She was a little shy.
Maybe. All right. You ready to get started?
I'm ready.
Awesome. You want to go first?
All right.
Into the big bowl. Here we go.
Oh, it's a long
Long
question.
one.
All right. So, question for Nick. In situations where a station does not have an active steward available, whether due to a lack of appointment or otherwise, members can be left without representation while real issues are unfolding, and confidence in the union's representation begins to break down. What responsibility does the business agent have to ensure that those members receive timely and effective representation? And at what point does it become the business agent's responsibility to step in and intervene directly when that support is not being provided at the local level?
All right. So somebody just walked up to my door, so that kind of threw me off. But what we do when they don't have a steward or somebody at a station is once we find out there's an issue, I'll assign an NAA to go into that station, even if they're not getting proper representation. So when I became business agent, one of the things I decided I was going to do was I was going to get a larger pool of nationally assigned assistants, NAAs, right? When I was RAA, we're probably down to 3 or 4. When Paul Price was a business agent, probably down to 3 or 4 local business agents at the time. So that wasn't enough. The local business agents were, working a lot for the business agent's office. And then since COVID, there has been a real need for nationally assigned assistants. We're talking about going in and helping branches, that are larger branches that have stewards that just don't, they get in a backlog. They've been, doing extensions for quite some time, and then their extensions that management refused to extend, and all of a sudden they're stuck, and we have to send people in there to do those backlogs. I think we're up to around 30 NAAs at this point. So we have people working all over the region, and one thing we've started doing is on our monthly regional updates on WebEx. We've had the nationally assigned assistants say what they're doing, where they are, what they're working on, just generally update the membership, what's been going on out there in these stations. That was a long question. I don't think I answered the whole thing. I don't remember the whole thing.
Yeah, I guess to summarize it quickly, what responsibility does the business agent have to ensure members receive timely and effective representation, those members being in a place where a station doesn't have an active steward available? And at what point is it your responsibility to step in and intervene directly?
Well, as soon as we find out there's an issue and somebody needs representation, and once we're made aware of that, it's 100% my responsibility at that time to get somebody to that station and take care of it. In the large, let's say you're talking about stations. The question said stations. I'm talking about installations. Now, if it's a station that has, like, let's say Seattle, right? That has what, 22 stations within the installation. That would fall on branch 79 because they're a large branch to send people to that station. Kevin Gottlieb, the president, would assign somebody to that. But if he didn't have people, I'm more than willing to send an NAA in there, which we have done for certain issues like route adjustments. We have people now specialize in route adjustments. We have teams specialized in nationally assigned assistance in JSOV cases. So in those instances, if the larger branch, I don't care, branch 79 obviously being the largest one, branch 82 in Portland, 111, if they want help on an issue, we're more than willing to send them in. But the short answer is the minute I know there's an issue, wherever it is, at that point, I am responsible for what happens in that.
All right. Question number 2 on the bowl. What are your thoughts on what the postmaster told Congress on the financial state of the post office?
Okay. We're running out of money in a year. I've been around. I started in 1996. I think I started hearing that almost immediately, right? But up until probably 2006, the Postal Service was pretty solvent. They were doing okay. They would turn a profit and all that. And then it became running out of money. Pre-COVID, we were running out of money. I remember people calling in a panic stand-up saying they're not going to make payroll Friday. All right. So that's gone on for quite some time. They always seem to find the money. As far as, if the post office takes over for workman's comp, they can't even handle the grievance procedure. And we've all seen how they've treated people that are on workman's comp. Let them run it. That would be insane. Absolutely 100% against that. Going down to the 5-day delivery. Yeah. Obviously we're against that. Congress would have to act on that because, 6-day delivery is mandated. So it wasn't horrible. He heard some of the stuff that we've been saying over the years, like the Siegel, they got to fix the CSRS and the first retirement, the overfunding, they got to fix that. So there was some good things in there. And, obviously there were a couple of things that there's no way we can get behind. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
I think so.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Oh, I got a long question again. I love that. All right.
All for Calvin.
All right. What would you do as MBA if two branches representing members in one installation aren't communicating or working with each other to ensure both memberships have their needs addressed in current LMOU negotiations? Question. To be more specific, one branch isn't allowing the other branch to have their proposals be put forward, and also do not include leadership when they negotiate deals with management pertaining to rules on how to select annual leave during the choice vacation period. This affects our members, yet they effectively don't have representation when it comes to this topic. Many are wishing to drop the union since they cannot hold the other branch accountable. My members have told me they do not want taxation without representation. Can you do something about this? So I guess
Did you like that, Calvin?
I told Nora this sounds a little bit familiar. I don't know, getting a little deja vu there, but yeah, there's
Look,
questions.
so I will tell you, I don't like it. I don't like what's going on. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not going to blame anybody. But when you have a station that 90% of the letter carriers fall into one branch, and the one with 10%, maybe even less than 10%, is a branch that's running is over that station. That's insane to me. There are some, Trent has said, the district manager has said something about moving the few remaining branch 791 carriers out of that, and then they would all be all branch 79. But if not, I think there's no possible way I can't go, and which I've already talked about. I'm going to ask President Renfro to make that the old North Sound carriers that are in Linwood, because they are a super majority of the people left in that Linwood station. That should be branch 79. That's, I think, if the district manager isn't going to move those people into this one of the branch 791 things, and that absolutely President Renfro should change the representation for that one installation.
All right.
Just for that, not the installation, for that station there in Linwood.
Right on.
Sure.
All right.
All right. Another short question for me.
No, that's all right. That's not fair.
What frustrates you the most, or is the most difficult issue to deal with being an NBA? And don't say me.
I'll tell you what frustrates me the most is branches that you go above and beyond to help. But we all just went out there. You go above and beyond to help, and then they run around telling everybody, you never helped us. A large branch, and I'm not going to name the branch, a large branch, I put an NAA in there, and this is a big branch in our region. Put an NAA in there for almost 3 years, almost full time, because he was retired, so we didn't have to worry about his work hours. And then they run around telling people, well, business agents never helped us any. Okay, well, I highly disagree and strongly disagree with that. That's the most frustrating thing. Is we do the best we can to represent these members. I also get very frustrated when we hear, of issues, and the people never let us know about them in time that we could actually do something about them. My phone number's online. I'm easy to get a hold of, and I guess that's the most frustrating thing for me. Just tell the truth. I mean, we help you as much as we can. Don't say we don't help you. Now, if you don't like the people I sent, which is a couple of places have had issues with the NAA I've sent there, okay, then I won't send. You got to talk to me. You got to tell me. Don't complain to everybody else that you don't think the NAA I sent there is any good and he's screwing the. Tell me. I can change that. Like I said, I got about 30 NAAs. You don't like the one. You don't think the one's doing a good job, or you just have a personality clash with them. Tell me. I can change it. I can change them out. Don't sit there and wait and tell everybody, all this, you're getting poor representation. Tell me, I'll fix it.
Yeah, I like it. Communication's cool.
All right. Here comes a short question.
You're shopping the bowl.
Okay. Oh yeah, short question. And this one I read earlier when we were sorting them out. I think they might have left the word out here, but I'm going to assume here. How would you comment on PSC clerks having a starting pay than PTF carriers. So I think they meant to say having a higher starting pay than PTF carriers.
Yeah, look, starting pay is an issue. It's going to be an issue until we can significantly raise the starting pay. But at a little past mid-level, I think we pass them, right? And the pay that's the most important. No, look, I get it. And especially in these places like Seattle and Portland, where the cost of living is so high, it's really tough to get people in there with the starting wage. In the clerk starting higher is an obvious frustration. But you're going to spend most of your career at top step, and that's that's important. You maybe 12 years to get to top step, but then after that, for the next 18, 20 years, you're at top step, you're above them. So I get the frustration, and that's something we've got to address. And President Renfro is well aware, and that is an argument. That's an issue. Maybe Mike wrote that one because I know that's an issue he brings up at council all the time. He brings it up constantly. We're not, this isn't a surprise to any of us. And that's something we got to fix. Our job's harder, right? We should get paid more from the day we start to the day we retire, because our job is harder. And the clerks can say whatever, they can quibble with that. They're not out there in the rain. They're not out there in the snow. They're not out there in the 100-degree heat and those, LOVs that have no air conditioning. So it's 130 in the vehicle. And if the air conditioning goes out in the building, they freak out, right? It gets 80 degrees in the building. But I mean, we all got our different jobs to do, but ours is harder and we should get paid more. No question.
No doubt. So real quick, I just want to bring it up. Because you mentioned something, and I think we mentioned it when we started, but I just want to make sure we're clear. So all the questions that we're asking are from members of Region 2 only. And I can see some questions popping up in the chat. We'll see what kind of time we have at the end to see if we can take some new questions. But we are only taking questions from Region 2 because the candidate for Region 2 in the current NBA is from Region 2. So, all right. Moving to the next one. What are your thoughts on the future of AI as a tool for NALC stewards? Do you use it? Caution.
I don't use it. You're lucky I get on this thing tonight. Really, I mean, you really are. It took me a while to get my camera and mic all set up. So AI, no. I mean, I guess once in a while, if you Google something, you get an AI answer. That's the extent of my AI. I get frustrated. Here's another one of my frustrations, which is brand new. I think it's only been the last couple of months where this has come up, where somebody will call and we'll answer their question. And they'll say, well, that's not what AI told me. So you're telling me AI is wrong. Yes, I am telling you that because AI, maybe, I don't even know how it works, but the contract, right? Maybe, I don't know. And then the JCAM explains that. And I don't know as though AI gets that. So we're getting that more and more. AI says this, and so you're telling me that AI is wrong. Yeah, in certain instances, absolutely, it's wrong. And then as far as like drawings and all that other stuff taken away from other union, other union jobs. So I don't use it unless if I do, it's by accident. I don't know how I got into AI, but yeah, that's my answer. I'm adamantly against it, but we're gonna have to come to terms with it at some point, apparently.
For sure.
All right. Next question. What kind of expectations do you have from the team members you have around you?
I expect them to do their job. I expect them to do it well. I mean, I don't know what more expectations you can have than that. If there's an NAA who's out there or anybody in my office who's not doing their job and not doing it to the best of their ability, I think that there's changes that need to be made. So there are some people I've stopped using in the past because of complaints where I've sent them and the people complaining about work ethic, I guess, is one of the things. We can't have that because these people, look, when they go out there, they're out there working on their own. They report back what they're doing. We see their end product. But other than that, they're on their own. You've got to be able to trust those people that they're doing the right thing. And so far in Region 2, we're really lucky. We have a good group, and I trust them. And, That's all you can ask for is people who are going out there have the best interest in the members, and what they do is the best interest of the members, and you just got to trust them to do the right thing and do their job. Period. That's all I expect from my people. Anything outside of the job, I don't care about. Just do what's right.
All right.
Yeah. Shake it for you.
Your turn.
Oh, it's my turn?
You're up.
Oh, all right. Let's see. What can our small region do to make a difference in our wider union? It's an interesting question.
I don't know. So I get that what that question's asking. What can our union?
What can our
it's a
small
democracy,
region
so-
do?
Yeah, what can our small region do to make a difference in our wider union? So I guess how our region affects the wider sort of scope of the union. I guess.
Any
I think our region has had a huge impact on things nationally. And I'll go back to Jimmy Williams and Jamie Lum when they started the Stewart colleges, and and they took that training and it went nationwide. And then I started the backlog teams, and I think other regions have started that. The JSOV teams, we started those. I think other regions have caught on to that. So, I mean, all we can do is keep trying to innovate, keep, doing whatever we feel is best. And if, people want to copy that, we'll help you. And we'll take some stuff from other regions if we see something's good from other regions, for sure.
Love it. All right. Let's see. All right. We got some feelings in this one. I've been a member for going on 9 years in your region. I've never once seen you at the main office sharing information with your members. You did show up when our office was converted into an SMDC. You've never attended one of our union meetings. How is membership supposed to have any confidence in you when you're never around?
I think, I don't know where that's from, but I've been in many places in SNDCs. Salem, I've been there. I've been on the working floor in Salem. I've been on the working floor in Everett before the SNDC. Trying to think of where the SNDCs are that I have not been on the working floor. I don't know. I'm always around. And, getting to branch meetings. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I have a lot of travel for work functions that won't coincide with branch meetings. A lot of branches have branch meetings on the same nights. There's 135 branches. I can't think of a large branch where I have not been to any of the branch meetings. I can't think of one. And if whoever wrote that question wants to talk about it, we can, because if I'm wrong, I'll apologize. But I can't think of anywhere that there's an SNDC where I haven't been before it was an SNDC, and I haven't been after it was an SNDC. Might be one. I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
Add something to that, just because I'm new to the region. I started off as a letter carrier in California, so I'm Region 1, and I know that's a big region. But one of the first things you told me when I first met you in Tacoma was, if you can just kind of talk about that, is the size of Region 2. And I know someone called it a small region, but I feel like, perimeter wise, it's important to know and remind the members in the region how big of a territory you cover, if you can explain that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fact that Region 2 landmass wise covers a third of the country. The country's like 3 million square miles. Region 2 is over 1 million square miles. Now, a lot of it, there's no city letter carriers in parts of Alaska. Montana's pretty sparse. So our region, population wise, is the third smallest. But as far as landmass wise, we're by far the largest. But there's business agents that drive to everything they can. There's places I can't drive to Alaska. I guess you could. You have to go up through Canada, but I don't even know if they let us into Canada anymore. But and then you got regions like Carif's region, like Mike's region, one state. Well, he can drive to everything. It would take me a full day to drive to parts of Montana and Utah. So our landmass wise, our region's huge. Population wise, not so much. So, and I remember they were talking about back when President Rolando was still president, they were talking about realigning the regions and going down to 7. It went to the national convention. And part of the plan, it looked like, Region 2 might get North Dakota, South Dakota, and Wyoming. So a lot more landmass with not many people in it. So I was like, dang, you know, it's putting a lot more travel on us to get to these places where, you know, the branches are few and far between. So when we were doing Montana, when the RGAs were going around to the non-functioning branches, trying to get them to merge with functioning branches, they had to do 3 or 4 different trips to go out and drive around for a couple of days and then come back and then have to go back out because of how far apart these offices were.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
we're a big boy.
This
Give me
is
my
the last-
question.
Oh, it's yours.
Oh,
I'm
is it?
sorry. No, it's the last
No, it's
one.
your question. Go.
No. All right.
Right. I got excited.
All right, let's see. This one says, how can you support the last contract negotiations when many of our carriers live in a high cost of living cities? These pathetic raises are nowhere near enough to have a life of decency. It's a rough question.
Well, I mean, the only thing I'll say about this is most people said, you know, the survey afterwards, you know, we could have got a 5% raise. That was what we were looking for, 5%. I think when all the back pay and all that stuff was rolled in the first day after the COLAs and all the back, I think that we were at 6% then. There's nobody, you're not going to find anybody out there, whether they're on the executive council, whether they're one of my colleagues as business agents, the REAs, the RGAs, the RWCAs, who don't think letter carriers deserve to be paid more. You're just not. You know, and the interest arbitration, the way we have it, you know, pretty much both sides. I mean, the history is the history, right? The bargaining history is the bargaining history. You kind of know what arbitrators are going to do because they're going to look at that history. So, I mean, I think that was the best we could have done at the time. Does that mean it's the best we can do going forward? No, but I mean, I don't think Nolan on a 100% arbitrated award would have done anything better than that. So, I mean, I get it. Like I said, everybody thinks letter carriers, including myself, should make more money. Now we just gotta find some kind of plan to get it there. I mean, you know, going in and telling them we want $30, that's great, and we do want $30. Heck, I want $50. We just got to find a way to get it done. That's all. And I'm not the guy for that. Look, I barely graduated high school. I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps. You start talking about that kind of stuff, that's way over my head. You know, I run my region. I do the grievances. I sit on the council. We listen to what they're saying. And, you know, we elect the people to negotiate our contract. That's what we elect them for. You know, that's the main job of the president and the executive vice president. That's what they're elected for.
Love it. I like that you mentioned grievances because we were going to shift gears a little bit into the grievance question bowl.
All right.
Let's see what we got. All right. Our current contract received an overwhelming voting turnout from the carriers, which represented our voice for change. However, what resulted from the ratification through the arbitration settlement did not reflect that. What is being discussed this time around to ensure that our voices are heard?
What is being done that the voice is being heard? Look, so let me say this: the way President Renfro did it last time is the way. I'm just talking about the negotiations. All right, that's the way it's always been done. And what the members told us overwhelmingly was, we don't care how it's been done in the past. We don't want it done like that anymore. Right? They wanted the transparency. They passed resolutions at the convention that there would be, that there would be updates posted. There would be more transparency, and like the rank and file. They brought in the rank and file carriers, and I'll tell you, somebody who sat on one of the committees, putting proposals together for them to take to the Postal Service. We listened to everything. Those 60 people who came in and did those proposals, we listened to everything they said. And I think in my committee, I think we wrote a proposal for every one of those. That there were already some proposals that were already written about it. So, but there was none that were ignored from the rank and file committee. I will say last negotiations, I'll just speak to what I can speak to. My committee on that one, we were brought in for 6 days. We went through the proposals for 6 days. And then that was it for us. We were done. We go to council, we get updates on, negotiations. But this time we're going back again. We're going back much more than we did last time. So yeah, I mean, everything is going to be more transparent. That was made clear that that's what the members want. I think that's what we're going to do as a council. Does that answer the question? I get talking and I forget what the entire question.
Oh, you're good. But you did mention something. Maybe I can just add a question on that. What committee were you on? You mentioned your group. What group was that?
This one?
Yeah, the rank and file committees.
So yeah. I'm on 15, 17, 31. So the grievance procedure is the one I'm on. That's the one I asked to be on because I have some interest in something that got really screwed up that I'd like to get fixed. And I have some, I think most of us that are on it, we all chose to be on it. But most of us, we want, there's a certain thing we want fixed and we want to fix right now. And that's the DRP. We want DRP fixed and we want to fix right now. Now we don't have a willing partner, at the moment to fix it. But we've got to, they're not going to fix it willingly. We're going to have to fix it through negotiations. We're going to have to.
I like it. Or
arbitration, however, but it's got to be fixed.
All right, next question. What is the status of the National Agreement Resolution 14, enforced terms of the DRP memo that passed at the 2024 National NALC Convention? Last national RAP session, the only update we had was that NBA sent letters to their USPS labor counterparts.
I'm sorry, Calvin. Could you say that the first part of that again?
First part. All right. What is the status of the National Agreement Resolution 14, quote, and enforced terms of the DRP memo that passed at the 2024 National Convention? So what is the status of resolution?
All I can tell you, because I can only tell you what I know, is that it's in the process. They're looking at filing a national level grievance on that issue. Obviously I'm not involved in that. I can tell you what we do is we continue to talk to the area about, you have people that are ready, willing, and able to go into step B. You can put them in right now. And they keep saying, we're not going to use those people. So, as a business agent, all I can do is kick that up to headquarters. I know Dan Tolt's working hard on all of this stuff with his counterpart, but it's at this point, dealing with them we're just spinning our wheels, right? So that's either got to be done through negotiation or we got to file national level agreements. This is insane what's going on right now with the DRP. It's absolutely crazy. But the two biggest issues that are backlog in the DRT, right, are about to be settled. The 85F, they're filing a grievance because we're getting administrative leave for the 85F violations, and any additional escalating remedies, there's a national level grievance on that. If we settle the escalating remedy the national grievance on the escalating remedies, we wipe out in Seattle District. I want to say it's, and I'm just quoting Mott's Julian, I think he said it's about 85% of the grievances go away the minute we settle that issue. That's the only thing that Honora can tell you. She came into the office to separate them for James, who handles the arbitration for our side, to separate them into what they are. And that's just the stuff we have at the office. 85% of the grievances in Seattle go away, and I think it's more like 60 or 70 in the Portland DRT. That's the only two I have. That one issue wipes out a whole bunch of that.
Yeah, it was a lot. I only looked at the stuff that was impassed, and I mean, it was, I think when I was done, I had a tub that.
Yeah, and step B's holding a whole bunch, and now there are places holding them locally as well.
Yeah, that was wild. All right. What are the biggest issues, contractual violations, we are currently seeing in the region, and how is the regional office fighting these issues?
The biggest issue and it's not just the region, but I'll discuss the region. The biggest issue is non-compliance. They'll settle. We have a supervisor in Seattle, which I haven't heard his name for a while, so I don't know. Maybe he's gone. I have no idea. But this man would settle anything the union would put in front of him. Anything. He wouldn't pay it. He had no intention of following the settlement. But at the grievance, he would sign. So we'd have that issue settled, then a non-compliance and a non-compliance and non-compliance. And that is the biggest issue, right? That is by far the biggest issue we have. And it's not really even the local folks. I just did an arbitration on Friday for Portland After Dark. This issue has been settled. It's an LMOU. Arbitrators already ruled this is outside the 22 items. The union doesn't have to negotiate this. I had to arbitrate again Friday. They just don't care about settlements. They don't care about precedent setting. They don't care about final and binding arbitrations. And they were told that. They were told, doesn't matter if you have precedent setting decisions. If they have anything besides a make whole remedy, don't settle it. They were told to ignore arbitrations. So, you know, I don't know how we get them to put somebody in there who was actually willing to follow the contract and willing to follow, the bargain for language in the contract in the grievance settlement. So that's our biggest issue is we need to get somebody on the other side that actually, and I'll tell you, the 3 people they will not put in there, all 3 of them are not in there because after they told them to stop doing that, they continued to settle grievance because it was the right thing to do. And the contract said it was the right thing to do. And that's why they won't use those 3 anymore.
Yeah, that tracks, unfortunately.
Okay. What is the realistic time frame for when these national level interpretive issues, Articles 8, 15, 17, and 31 will get resolved?
I don't have the answer to that. I think we'll get updated. We're going back to Executive Council this week. A lot of it depends on I'm assuming, and this is just an assumption on my part. I have not talked to President Renfro. I've not talked to Paul Bond, none of those guys about this, but it seems like arbitrator Nolan's the only one that ever comes up anymore. So it would depend on, arbitrator Nolan's schedule. I would love to get these things settled, before we get in, before we have to start looking at taking an interest arbitration forward. I'd love to see these settled before then. I think we should make it a priority, but that's just my opinion. That these should be a priority to get done before we go to. I found this on the web. And my phone's talking to me about AI is talking to me about something on the web.
Speaking of AI,
Yeah.
just trying to help us out.
Yeah, well, I should have waited to see what it found. I might have been interested.
All right. How do you plan to deal with management shoving down carriers' throat daily undertime?
Shoving it down their throat. Well, I don't see how they shove it down their throat. Now, as we train and we go all over the place and we send people in just for this issue where management is trying to take the morning estimate process and make it into a mandatory thing. They got this thing now where you earn time. Right. I just sent somebody into an office because they were harassing the carriers on earn time. Your route only earned this much. This when we don't care about that. So I will send people in to deal with your management on that issue. And we do trainings on this all the time about how the morning estimate process should go. What's you're expected to give your best estimate. And that's it. You're not supposed to give your best argument. You tell them what you think, and that's the end of it. And if they want to continue to argue with you, you get a hold of your steward. And if you don't have a steward, you call me and I got people who love going in and taking that fight up.
All right. Is it
It's true. Your turn.
My turn? All right. Let's see. Okay. It's a long statement. Many of us who are the face of the service actually out delivering to our beloved residents have noticed that some phantom third party is horribly misdelivering parcels to our people. These parcels are indistinguishable from USPS parcels in their labels. They're only labeled USPS and have no indication that they're from any of our lesser competitors. They are incredibly misdelivered and often left outside secure locations in the rains and the elements. Who signed off on this? Who is impersonating, degrading, and stealing from the carrier craft? How are both management and our union seemingly unaware? We are in the fight of our life, and management and the union seems to sign off on the degradation of our services and reputation.
Well, I mean, I can tell you I'm unaware of that it has a USPS label on it. Now, this used to be a fairly big issue with UPS, right? UPS would have U.S. Postal Service labels, but if their people didn't have enough to do, they wouldn't make the drop shipment to the Postal Service, and then they'd deliver them themselves, and they get misdelivered, whatever. As for, this is the first I'm hearing that there's a USPS label. It's going out and getting horribly misdelivered. I'm assuming that would be by Amazon, but I don't know why they'd put a Postal Service label on it if Amazon was delivering it. Yeah, I'd like to. Whoever's got that, yeah, go ahead, send that to me. I'd like to see it.
All right. What are the contract provisions carriers must know to properly grieve the delay of mail when management instructs carriers to curtail delivery in order to avoid paying penalty and/or extra penalty overtime?
Well, I mean, look, they get the right to manage the mail, right? The delay of the delivery standards, relaxing the delivery standards, has really hurt us over the past. Postmaster General DeJoy relaxed the delivery standards. And when there are no delivery standards, all we can do is protect ourselves, right? Make sure you fill out a 1570. If they tell you to roll mail, fill out a 1571, get a copy of it. You can check to see if they reported that the mail was delayed. What will happen is if you don't get the 1571, and I'll guarantee you this will happen, is if the OIG comes in and sees a bunch of delayed mail, they're going to say, what's all this? Oh, the carrier didn't take it with them. Without that 1571, the OIG will come after you for not taking all the mail, for you delaying the mail because you didn't report it. So, Congress at some point is going to have to get involved on the delivery standards. We got to go back to holding the Postal Service accountable for the delivery standards, whether it's 2-3 day first class mail. That's what's going to have to happen.
All right, my turn. How do you plan on dealing with management failing to bargain in good faith at the informal A level?
Oh, boy. So they just, the only way to really do that is to have buy-in, and that's to go and train these people what's supposed to be done. But you have to have, when they realigned the Postal Service, several years ago, right, where labor relations report straight up, HR reports straight up, no one reports to the district manager anymore. So anytime we have places where we're having issues with them at informal A or formal A, not doing the right thing, we used to go to the district manager and get the district manager involved. Now it's, labor relations. We talk to labor relations. They talk to the district manager, but they don't report to him anymore, right? And then the labor relations will call the postmaster, and they'll say, well, they're not in my chain of command. I don't have to listen to them. So I know Dan Tult's working on a test, and there's been a test site. It's worked really well, where they went in and actually did the training, and then hold the people accountable for the training that you did. And to do that, you've got to get the district managers buy-in, as well as, to do the training, labor relations is going to have to buy in, and then you've got to get the district manager and hold them accountable to hold their people accountable to following that. So, that's all we can do is get the district manager buy-in, and without, some help for some higher ups, it's just not going to work. And the worst thing they did is one of the worst things they did is when they gave monetary amounts, right, at informal A, formal A, there's monetary amounts. So they know going into that meeting, they're not settling that, right? So it's going to get kicked up. It's obvious violation. They should settle it, but it's more than they can pay. They kick it up, maybe more than formal A. I mean, it's not following the grievance procedure, the dispute resolution process as it was set up to settle at the lowest possible level. Until we get some buy-in to hold their people accountable, which is what we got to do right now. And to do that, we need the district managers to buy in.
Can you tell us any of the Article 15 proposals or ideas that are being talked about in this round of collective bargaining?
I cannot.
That is an answer.
Specific. Look, so we wrote proposals. We wrote proposals on the DRP. We wrote proposals on. If there's a problem out there, we wrote a proposal for it. So, yeah, but specifically, I mean, I don't even have them. So I couldn't tell you specifically, because when we leave that room, everything's left there. We don't take anything with us.
Okay. Next one. What information or conversations are you privy to when it comes to addressing the DRT backlog in Region 2?
Say that again. I'm sorry, Calvin. Say that again.
What information or conversations are you privy to when it comes to addressing the DRT backlog in Region 2?
So the DRT backlog in Region 2 has been kicked up to headquarters, and I think in every region at this point has been kicked up to headquarters. The regions, we've done all we can do. We've gone to our counterparts at the Western area. You got to add these people. No, we won't. So then we send it up to headquarters and say, look, they won't do it. And look, Dan Toth is having conversations with them. I want to say several times a week about these. And as far as regionally at this point, we're out of ammunition. I mean, it's nothing. Me and my counterpart do not agree. So now we have to send it up to the next level. They do not agree at the next level. So until we can get a resolution on that, either through negotiations or through arbitration, I can't force them to put people in. They say they don't have people. I name the people they have. This has been going on for years. So we had 4 people in the Seattle DRT. We had Mott's Julian, Nick Simmons, Tommy Grice, and Nathan Martin. They only had 2 management partners. So they said the DRP memo said they'll be activated in teams. So we're going to deactivate them. I think this goes back to even when Debbie was our head. They wanted to deactivate them. We said no. We're not doing it. It says we have to agree to deactivate them. We're not deactivating our people. And we kicked up the headquarters and they deactivated.
So Nick, just to clarify for the folks at home, you're basically saying that there was 2 managers meeting with 4 NALC DRT members, and so they unilaterally deactivated 2 of our NALC DRT members. Is that what happened?
No. Mostly. You had it till the very end. They tried to unilaterally. They did not unilaterally do it. It got kicked up to headquarters, and our headquarters agreed with them that it does say they will be activated in teams. These were not teams, and they deactivated them. So there was an agreement at the headquarters level to deactivate them because one side can follow the DRP memo, even though the other side refuses to do it.
Thank you.
All right. In East District, management is violating our contract by assigning work assignment carriers to take on swings to avoid ODL goes into penalty overtime. It not only affects largely on ODL carriers' paychecks, but it also gives work assignment carriers unwanting extra work since this January. What can the union at the national level do to correct this violation rather than stewards filing grievances and carriers getting delayed payments?
Well, I mean, Article 8's got to be fixed, right? The letter carrier paragraph 85G, they have to get together, right? It doesn't matter if you get mandated on assignment, off assignment, they should have to maximize the ODL 12 hours, period. And that's the fix. That fixes that issue. You can't mandate anybody on assignment or off assignment. And why all these years later, we still have that issue hanging out there. It just blows my mind. But that's what has to be done. That has to be fixed. That takes that issue completely out of play.
All right, long one here. With recent station consolidations, including active situations within your region, carriers from different branches are working in the same building and members are reporting inconsistent representation, lack of LMOU clarity, and in some cases being caught between branches when coordination breaks down or representation fails. Should representation within a single installation be consistent for all carriers? And when it is not, who is ultimately responsible for that failure? What immediate recourse should members have to protect themselves in real time? And what responsibility does the business agent have to intervene and resolve these issues? I promise you I didn't write this question, Nick. I don't write like this. It's a little too smart for me.
So I mean, it's tough because we don't have any authority to order any branch president to do anything. I can't tell branch 791, no, you're not doing that, and we're going to do this for branch 79. With these consolidations, what's going to happen, and we see, I mean, there's several places where, the representation it's not equal. Some like just the Seattle North City getting moved up into Linwood, they went from 20% leave percentage down to 13% just because they moved into a different building. That doesn't make any sense to me. I think that whoever the majority of the letter carriers are, they're represented by that branch. Can we take, I mean, I don't know. I don't think even President Renfro has the authority to take like those Mount Lake Terrace carriers that are in Linwood, take them and say, okay, now you branch 79 letter carriers because you're in Linwood and most of the building is branch 79. He doesn't have the authority to do that. That's a question I don't have the answer to, is how, we'd violate branches' rights if we did that. We said, all right, Linwood's 90% branch 79 and 10% branch 791. You're all now branch 79. You're all going to be represented by the same branch. That's taking money out of the other branch's pocket. And then what happens if the branch with the minority is getting the better representation than the branch with the majority, right? Now you're screwing those other 10% over. It's no good answer to that, really. And then that's above my pay grade about how we fix that issue when they move in. Do they all become branch 79? Anybody who went convention saw with it one time, one branch that happened to, and it was an all-out war on the convention.
I think it was in New York. I remember that in Boston, that's what I was going to kind of follow up there is, like, from your experience, just talking to the other business agents, and I talked to Mike Cariff about this. Is, have you seen it where, I know they're unique in their own ways, but where sort of this thing sort of does work? They, both branches communicate well. They thrive. They basically double up against management. Like, have you heard of those stories within your region? Or I don't know how many they've consolidated like that, but
no, I have not. I have not seen it work well. You got two branches in one branch is always gonna, everywhere. One of the branches says they're better than the other one, and it breaks down to where they don't want to speak to each other. And then the letter carriers are, well, they're getting this over there, and we're getting screwed over here, and they're in the same building. They may be right across the aisle from each other. Their cases could be back to back, and one of them's, no, I haven't seen it work well at all.
Thank you.
Not yet.
Yeah,
I'm optimistic it will happen.
No, I hope they cancel the rest of them. They canceled a bunch.
No, it's
I heard about that.
The one that's worked really well is Salem. That's the one that's worked really well because all they did is consolidate Salem, put them all in the same building. So that worked fine.
Put the branch together.
Same branch, yeah.
And Olympia is going to be putting the city letter carriers all in the same building.
All right. Why are we permitting the inspection service to install permanent cameras inside employee-only areas of delivery units in places such as break rooms under the guise of security?
Why are we allowing them? The simple answer is first of all, they're not supposed to be, these cameras are not supposed to be aimed at where letter carriers are working, right? These are for security reasons. And what we're told is that, it's for the postal inspectors, so they don't have to use the catwalks and all that. They can use these security cameras. In certain instances, in a couple of places, that's worked out great for us, right? There's been accusations that a letter carrier did something, the management didn't do it, didn't have anything to do with it, and then they have it on camera out on the dock with the manager was doing exactly what the carrier said, and he denied it. again, you're asking me stuff that, headquarters does, that business agents have no authority. My job is to oversee this region and not national policies that get rolled out. If it was up to me, would I allow them to have cameras? No, but nobody asked me, Business agents have very little say in national policy. Our job is basically to maintain the grievance arbitration procedure in our region and support the branches and, answer questions from the members. And then we get notified. When I get notified that a national policy has changed, I send it out. I get notified from a branch that these cameras going out. I send it to headquarters. They sent us the communication they had with the service about it. And that said, this is what they're for. They can't do this with them. They can do this and they can't do that. And that's the extent of what I have to do with cameras.
All right. I had a question, but I think I'll leave it towards the end. But it just made me think. You stated you are on the Article 15 bargaining committee. Mm-hmm. Our dispute resolution process with the service has been bogged down for many years. Could you provide us with a bargaining update on what might be negotiated during this round of collective bargaining, and what plan, if any, do you have here in Region 2 to encourage management to comply with grievance settlements?
Well, what's going to encourage them to comply is settling the step 4. If they allow escalating remedies and say, yeah, absolutely, they're 100% on the table, a national level arbitrator rules that, then that takes out management's argument that they can't do this, right? They've been arguing that for years when they went to the sovereign immunity and all that other nonsense they were arguing, saying that it's against the law for the union to get escalating remedies, right? This will set that in motion. Is okay, these escalating remedies, national level arbitrators said we can get them, so arbitrators, it's on now. Part of my issue with the OIG report on that was, they did what, year 23, 24. That's what they did. Half of 23 and all of 24, they kicked all that stuff got sent up. That's all the stuff in the backlog. That number would have been much, much, much higher. And the OIG and Congress would have had a much bigger problem with it had these cases that are up there pending right now that are all on hold been settled. That number would have been way higher, double, maybe even triple, which would have raised a lot more alarms. So getting that settled, that's going to do it. It'd be great if we could. We have some things that will, try to hold. We have some proposals that will try to hold management accountable, not fire. Look, we ain't got no right to fire these people, but to hold them accountable, and then working with management to hold the frontline supervisors accountable for their non-compliance and just blatant disregard for our national agreement.
Yeah, got a comment in the chat. So the federal judge already said punitive awards are permissible. It kind of speaks to them trying to relitigate every single solitary thing. Am I right?
Yeah, they don't care. I mean, the current people, they don't care what judges say, which is horrible. I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, but that's where we're at.
Yeah. What is the status of the B team backlog currently? And is there anything that can be done at the regional level to address the backlog and or management's non-compliance? It's a 2-part.
I think that's, yeah. Well, I think we've answered that, but to address the non-compliance, we're going to have to get a decision. We could have got rid of the backlog if we were willing to give up the escalating remedies, which we weren't. That's what the backlog is. We have in certain instances sent teams in, pre-B meetings. I sent a couple when we have an issue to go in and try to negotiate, get them off the B team's plate. I think we've taken 400 or 500 out using a pre-B method where I'd send somebody, a B team trained person or an advocate up there, and they would send the same, and we would try to knock out some. So we do that any chance we can get to take some stuff out of the B team and settle it other ways. We're going to do it.
Is it my turn?
Your turn.
Okay. Given the challenges we've discussed, such as inconsistent representation in consolidated installations, lack of steward access in some stations, and concerns about accountability, Why should members trust that your leadership would meaningfully improve these conditions? And what specific actions would you take to ensure carriers receive timely, consistent, and effective representation?
Okay, can we do that part by part? Can you read the first question? I mean, that's like a 4-part question.
Yeah,
Calvin gets the long ones.
and I feel like, there's a...
Can we go one at a time?
Yeah, given the challenges we've discussed, such as inconsistent representation in consolidated installations, lack of steward access in some stations, and concerns about accountability, why should members trust that your leadership would meaningfully improve these conditions?
Okay, so as far as the inconsistent representation in consolidated installations, we train people, we train them all the same, right? We train everybody the exact same way. I don't care where you're from. If you're from a little town in Montana, you're from branch 79, you're branch 82, we train them all the same. Are all stewards equal? No. Is there anything I can do to make them equal? No. The branch presidents are responsible for what their stewards do. All I can do is train them. So if one branch is getting great representation and a branch in the same installation isn't getting great representation, I have had, I have to have permission. And this is one thing I know Mike had an issue with this. We're supposed to have permission from branch presidents to send somebody in to represent members, to send NAAs into a branch. We need permission from that branch president. We have been told, no, you will not send anybody into our installation. If they're doing something wrong, there is no vehicle for me, right? And we've had this issue in several places where they want me to fire a branch president. I can't fire a branch president. Only the members in that branch can fire him. If you're getting piss poor representation, fire them. And just like, people think, President Renfro can't fire me, right? You guys can fire me. If you don't think I'm doing a good job, I can get fired. First week of December, I'll be gone this year. If you guys think I'm doing a bad job, that's the way it goes. And the same thing has to happen in the branches. I do not have the authority to fire a branch president. I've had branch presidents hang up on me because I tell them, you're doing a bad job. You need to do this. You need to do that. And they tell me to go F myself and hang up on me. I have no recourse in that, right? Our job is to guide the branches, advise the branches. We don't run the branches. The issue of firing branch presidents comes up a couple times a year. People write petitions. Petition doesn't do us any good. Nobody has the authority to remove a branch president that was voted in by the members. Nobody, including President Renfro.
And then the last part of that question was, and what specific actions would you take to ensure carriers receive timely, consistent, and effective representation?
If carriers aren't getting timely, effective representation, any letter carrier can call my office anytime. 360-89. Jesus, it's been so long since I call. I got, how you got everything on speed dial? I don't even the number. 360-892-6545. It's NBA hotline on my phone, but it's 360-892-6545. Call me. Call anybody in the office. Like I said, as far as getting equal representation, I don't care what region you are or what region you're in. There's good branches and there's not so good branches. And I'm not saying anybody in our region, but if you get a not so good branch and a really strong branch, we can all agree on that, right? There's some really good branches out there and there's some really poor ones. You put them in the same building, you're going to get these complaints. And all we can do is try to help. We can go up there. We can do remedial training. We'll train anybody who wants anything. But the problem with that is you've got to get that branch president to realize this side over here is getting all these good settlements and the people are getting treated much better than the people are over here. You got to get that branch president to realize that. And good luck with that. People tell me I'm doing a shit job all the time, but I'm doing the best I can. I don't believe them.
Love it. All right. Let's see. Like we already maybe answered this one. If you think we did, we know we can move on, but I said I'm going to ask him anyway, so I'm going to ask him. Okay. Following the case of no penalty overtime posted by management, carriers are squeezed to get undertime to help out swings for large routes. If carriers cannot follow on heavy days, they get issued with discipline letter. This is increasing workload for shop stewards and generates tension to fight for union time. How can we correct this mess?
So, they're having telling everybody no penalty overtime, and then they're trying to beat everybody up to get undertime.
Yes,
Look,
it sounds like no penalty overtime. If you end up not being able to complete your route in a certain time, you get discipline, and it seems like there are stewards who are struggling to get union time, and that's creating additional fights on the workroom floor.
So, I mean, that's just that's textbook harassment, right? I have not seen anybody disciplined for that, which means it hasn't made it up to us. I don't know as though it's even made it to the B team. That is a place that needs some help. That's a place who may need JWIP. The area has been very good with us doing JWIP the last year or so. We've done some good things with JWIP, and it's hard to say, because I want to say it's a poor reflection of us that we haven't trained our letter carriers about their morning reporting requirements. But as well as I do, you got people who are just going to, take it, right? They're just going to take it. They're not going to fight back. They're not going to say, look, I gave you my estimate, that I'm not going to change it. And if they tell you, well, you're going to take this half hour, then you say, okay, well, what if I can't do it? What do you want me to do with it? They have to give you that answer. And in places where they won't give you that answer, that's where we need to go in there and call me. We got people who specialize in this. We have people who are very good at going in there and fixing this issue and this specific issue. Like I said, we just had it, I think, last week in an office in Oregon. And we sent 2 people in there, and they were in there for 2 days and done.
Good deal. Yeah, sounds like a whole lot of, if you're having that problem, communicate. They're having that problem.
Look, 135 offices. I don't know what's going on. There's lots of offices that have never called. So we don't know what's going on there. And the branch presidents, I got branch presidents who would send somebody in there due to a letter carrier calling us and saying, hey, we need help, and our branch president won't. And we contact them. And they say, yeah, send us some help. Who had no idea all they need to do is pick up the phone and call us, and we'd send in the cavalry, because we got people ready, willing, and able. 30 NAAs, I think most of them are on the road almost every week dealing with issues like this.
True story.
All right. Yes. Next question. Will you advocate that the NALC immediately file a national level grievance to enforce the terms of the DRP memo, as stated by the National Agreement Resolution 14, if you are reelected as National Business Agent for Region 2?
Not if I'm reelected. No, I want to do it right now. I don't care if I get reelected or not. I'm advocating for. I've been advocating for it. I don't have to be reelected for that. I've been doing that.
All right. How are we, stewards and/or Region 2 advocates, I didn't write this question, combating the increase in USPS tyrannical manager appointments?
Like I said, I hate to give the same answer over and over again. But the thing, when President Rolando was still in office, he made a commitment about JWIP, and I'm going to quote him here, where he said, if they won't help us in these offices, we'll send our assholes to deal with their assholes. That never happened. But I'll guarantee you in Region 2, that's exactly what we're doing. We are, now to stop their appointment, there's very little we can do to stop their appointment. And I think I got a couple of MPOs out there who are scouting around the country to find the worst people they can find and bring them in. I'm convinced of that. But the minute they're there, we got our people standing there making life miserable for them.
All right.
So we're
going to shift gears a little bit, because there are definitely some people who have questions. They want to know the tea.
This is the tea. Yeah, the gossip and the tea is what we broke these down to.
I'm going to get some contract out of the way. I told him, you ask him. We're going to ask him. You guess what the first one is? Why was Debbie Dixon fired?
Look, I've covered this in several different on several different forums. We don't get into HR issues, but I will give you in general reasons what happened. Me and Debbie were friends for years. There's no question about that. End of COVID, we got in a pretty serious argument or disagreement. Lasted quite some time. We both agreed. We agreed to disagree, and we'd never agree with each other on that issue the rest of our careers. Then there were some other things that happened in between where we just weren't getting along. We weren't talking to each other. I think we went months without speaking to each other unless we absolutely had to. And then there was some back and forth, but then there was an email sent to the Weston area. Basically called me a liar in an email. It was something I had asked her to do. She didn't do it. I'd asked her twice to do it. She didn't do it. And it got to the point where, I was like, if I don't put it in writing, she's just not going to do it. And then when the final straw for me is when she told me she took down all the retirement stuff, told me right to my face. She said, I'm not going to retire now. I'm going to stick around for as long as I can. And she went like, just to stab you in the back. There's only one way to stab me in the back, right? That's to make me look bad at my job, which means that affects the rest of the members out there. You can't stab me in my back. I don't know what you could do, but as far as that goes, that's it. I mean, when you can't work together and you're in an office, I mean, you're going to have, in any regional office, you're going to have conflict from time to time, whether it be between the RAAs or me and the RAA, whatever it is. It's any workplace, right? You're going to have disagreements. But when you lose trust in somebody, you put out on the road to handle issues, and they tell you they're going to stab you in the back, and you lose trust for good in that person. That was it for me. Like, they call me a liar. Yeah, I was really mad. That kind of stuff. But once that trust is broken for good, I can't trust you. She had, and she'd tell you this, that I'd stopped sending her out on the road. That's true, because I couldn't trust her to do the right thing. So she didn't go out on the road. I stopped sending her training. That's true. But there's a reason behind that. And that, that's why. We need a team in there that we can trust. The people that work in there, and they're going to go out there and do the right thing. They're going to take direction from, the business agent, because they work for the business agent. They're going to take their direction, and they're going to do what they're supposed to do. And I lost that trust. Period. That's the story.
All right.
Next one. If Debbie was argumentative with you, why is RGA Gallo allowed to still work at the regional office when she's openly defiant towards you and Renfro and disrespectful to members of Region 2 at rep session?
If Debbie was argumentative, is that what you said?
Yeah, if she was argumentative with you, and then it goes into why is RGA Gallo allowed to still work at the regional office when she's been openly defiant towards you and Renfro and disrespectful to the members of Region 2 at rep session?
All right. So first of all, one of the things that makes Debbie Debbie, she's not afraid to argue with people, right? And I'm not afraid to. Her being argumentative was never, I think I was business agent for 6.5, 7 years with Debbie. She disagreed with me a lot, and Debbie was never shy to disagree with me. Her being argumentative had nothing to do with her not being there. And I want to clear up something right now, just so people know. Just like business agents don't set national policy, business agents don't hire their staff either. So the national president hires everybody in the business agent's office, right? We give them names, he picks a name, and that's who's on your staff. Now, as far as the argumentative at rap session for Amy, there was the incident I remember. President Renfro was speaking, and someone was being completely rude, and she said, started yelling, "We're not doing that." It was an outburst, but it was what it was. So I don't have a problem with people being argumentative with me. I don't have that problem. I argue with everybody. As far as being disrespectful towards me and Renfro, I'd have to know what incident you're talking about, right? You know, people think different things are disrespectful. Me disagreeing with you, or me arguing with you, you know, some people think are disrespectful. I said something to somebody at a COP this past weekend, and somebody said I was being disrespectful. I didn't think I was. I still don't think I was, but they thought I was. It's perception. You know, if I thought that, if I couldn't trust, you know, if I get to the point where I can't trust anybody in that office, you know, I will take it up the same way I took it up with Debbie. That, I guess that's as long as I trust you're going to do your job, fine.
All right. Yeah. And that question did not clarify any further than what we asked. What are your plans to ensure that future attendees at Region 2 shop steward colleges are treated with respect by your staff teaching the classes?
I read every single feedback form, every single one. I don't know as though I've read one that said any of my instructors were disrespectful. So look, again, unless you tell me something's going on, I don't know. So I don't know who was disrespectful. I don't know when they were disrespectful. I would, you know, like I said, I read, and those are anonymous. You don't have to put your name on those feedback forms, as you guys know. They're anonymous. Now we're going to start doing online. It's going to be even more anonymous. If I don't know about an incident, there ain't nothing I can do about it. And I read every feedback form. And if that happened, they didn't tell me about it. They didn't write it down.
And that is correct. You can only fix what you know about.
Okay, next question. It's been stated that Debbie Dixon wouldn't do her job, and that's part of why she was relieved of her duties. What specifically wouldn't she do aside from her not doing a special assignment at headquarters?
That Debbie would not do her job?
Yeah, that it was stated that she wouldn't do her job, and that's part of why she was relieved of her duties. And then they ask, what specifically wouldn't she do? Like, what wasn't she doing aside from her not doing a special assignment at headquarters?
I don't think I ever said Debbie didn't do her job. If I did, I'd like to know that I said she didn't do her job. Yeah, I don't remember it. Just like I got a question about Debbie never come to work. I never said that. I never said Debbie didn't come to work. So I mean, people can spin the stuff I said. Nora, you've been on the WebEx when I discussed it. I don't remember. Did I say that? I don't know.
I don't remember. I don't think so.
I don't think I ever said. I didn't trust her.
Not actively taking notes though either.
Yeah, no. If her not being able to go out and teach steward college is not doing her job, but I never said that either. So, yeah, I don't have an answer to that because I don't believe I said that she wouldn't do her job.
Got you. All right. Awesome. We had a tiny human ran off with a question. Calvin went and retrieved it. She's so sad. You should give her all those asked ones already.
No, it was
all right.
left.
It's kind of a two-parter. Did you request that Debbie Dixon be fired as an RAA? And if yes, why?
Why? I think I already covered the why. Did I request that she be fired? No. Well, I requested she be put on detail until she retired is what I requested. That is what I requested. And that is exactly what happened. And my recollection is she was going to retire in October of 2025 when Executive Vice President Barnard was going to put her on the detail. He had worked out that she couldn't retire until December of 2025. So my request was that she be put on detail and not work in the office. That was what I requested.
Okay. I just want to address something that showed up in the chat real quick. For those of you that were not here when we started, Debbie was given an opportunity to be on this show right now with all of us and to answer the same questions and or to respond to the questions asked. She respectfully declined. So the idea that she's not here to defend herself, the reason she's not here is because she did not want to be here. Okay, moving on.
All right. What task did you delegate after the removal of Debbie Dixon, and to who?
What task did I delegate? You're talking about what the okay. So how the regional office, at least Region 2 works, is we have specific duties that specific RAAs do. Arbitration, James Frankfurt does the arbitration stuff. Debbie did the Carrier Academy. Debbie did the organizing. Debbie did the food drive. Debbie did the Step B teams until she got removed from the B teams. I did not remove her from the B team. I refused to remove her from oversight of the B team, and that went up to headquarters, and a decision was made there that both her and her counterpart, Emma, would be relieved from oversight of the Seattle B team, and then Debbie relinquished the Portland B team. So I took over the B teams, which I still have today. The rest of her duties, me and James for a couple of months went back and forth, trying to pick up the duty she was doing. And at this moment, I have appointed Sue Wellhausen to take over, which I announced on the WebEx that anything that Debbie used to handle, send to Sue Wellhausen.
All right. I love Sue. All right. This one looks like it also got kidnapped.
Yeah.
Does the Region 2 office still have a NALC vehicle? And if so, how is that vehicle used?
Yes, we have an NALC vehicle. How is it used? I use it when I go, I use it when I go on trips. And if anybody wants to use it, they can use it. The NEAs have used it when they're in town. It's the regional vehicle.
That was really open-ended. I was like, can I take it to Costco?
Yeah. I mean, some of the NEAs use it when they're in town. Yeah.
Love Costco.
All right. This is the last question for the gossip tea. If you are reelected, how are you going to rebuild the trust within the region?
Well, I mean, I don't know as though I lost trust in the region. I know people are upset that Debbie got fired. You say fired. Debbie didn't get fired. I mean, she got relieved of her duties as a full-time NALC. She retained her job as a postal service. So it's an at-will job. The RAA is an at-will job. The RGA is an at-will job. RWCA is at-will. You work at the leisure of the president. If the president needs to remove you or wants to remove you, they have the right to do that. I think the one thing I will say is people were shocked, right, when Debbie was let go.
True.
That's because I wasn't out in the region, and I told all the other employees there, you're not going to go out in the region and talk shit. You're not going to do it. Debbie was doing it, and she had been doing it for a couple of years. Things about me and things about the other people that worked in the office. We did not do that. I did not tell. We all have some close, supporters and friends in the region that they may have known some of it, but for the most part, I did not tell people out in the region about the problems I was having with Debbie, and that's why everybody was shocked. Now, everybody knew about the problems she was having with me. And I mean, that's part of the trust. You lose the trust. That's part of it. So.
All right.
Before we get to these, I wanted to ask that question I had earlier.
Right.
Before I just forget, I'll just say something. You talked about your resume earlier, and sort of like when you're talking about the pay scale at the national, the collective bargaining with the national teams, and you talked about how. You are a United States Marine Corpsman. I would say, don't sell yourself short.
Marines.
You are too. Would you consider, if you have considered, or would you consider running for a national position where you would be in DC? I know you're a regional NBA, but have you considered that?
I'll address it like this. I'm happy with where I'm at. I have never been offered a position in DC where I had to make that decision. I was stationed in the Marine Barracks in Norfolk, right down the street from DC. Not my favorite. I'm from the Northeast. Northeast is great. That part of the country is not my favorite. DC's not my favorite place to be. But if I would, I'd consider it if I was asked. I would rather not. I guess I'd rather not. No. I think it might take some convincing, maybe. But I don't think I have to worry about that. I don't think I'm going to get offered any. So I think we're good.
You never know. And I just wanted to ask for the
That's
record.
true.
Yeah.
We did have a late submission as far as questions, but it's one from somebody that I can confirm as part of Region 2. It says, since Debbie's departure, has the environment at the NBA's office been resolved?
For the most part, yes. I mean, there are, like I said, any workplace have conflicts, and we'll deal with those as they come. So, I mean, I guess that's my answer.
Okay. All right. I think it's kind of a two-part. The other question on this one was, how are you going to ensure that all members of your staff are held to a standard of dignity and respect for all members?
So, okay. That's another. Yeah. No, I know. I mean, I try to take people in. I guess everybody that works in my office, for the most part, I have brought in and had conversations with about things I expect and things I expect out of them. But when it comes down to it, the NALC has an HR department, and handling those kind of things is, and we hired a new HR person. Those things, as we saw with the President Renfro charges and all that, when investigations, all that are supposed to happen, I'm not supposed to do them. So I guess, I will handle the day-to-day issues that come up, and if I can squash them quick, I will. If not, it's not my job to I guess hold these people accountable. And there's nothing I can do to them, right? Short of taking them off the road, short of, everybody calls it grounding them. I can't discipline them. They don't work for me. They work at my direction, but they do not work for me. And that's the way it goes. If they're going to be disciplined, it's going to come from above. And I don't know how that works with HR. If they suggest discipline to the president, I don't know how that works. So, we have an HR department. That's their job to deal with those issues. I'll try to take care of it and triage it if I can. And if I can't, the discipline or anything that comes out of anything that happens in the office is their boss, the person they actually work for.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that they work there, but not for you.
I can't hire, fire, or discipline anybody.
Gotcha. All right. Ready to move on to some fun stuff?
Oh, we didn't have fun?
The fun started? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Where was Mike? I thought me and Mike were going to sit here and have a conversation. What happened?
I know, right?
I think he owes you that.
He does.
I'm going to say he owes you that.
I know. I agree. I thought he was going to hang out with us too. So we're all mad at you, Mike. How are you hanging in there through this intense political climate?
Hey, look, I'm going to tell you, I hate this shit. Absolutely hate it. I wasn't made to be a politician. For those of you who knew me before I became business agent, if you read, the article that in my first election, they came out with a pamphlet and basically, how I used to cuss people out, like literally cuss them out, like for just a total cuss rampage for, I've had to, I guess, and it's a strange thing to say, but I've had to really change kind of my behavior, I guess. Being a politician is horrible. It's horrible, absolutely awful. And the one thing you can't do is you can't think about, well, if I do this, I'm going to piss this person off. If I do this, they're not going to vote. You can't do that. And then, when you're done with your second term and trying to go for a third term, I've made some enemies. Look, there's no question I've made some enemies, but you have to do that. I can't tell everybody what they want to hear. I can't give everybody what they want. That's just not how this job works. So I've made some enemies over the years. I've got some people that are very mad at me for some of the decisions I've made, but that's what I get paid to do. I mean, I get paid to make those decisions. I've had REAs kick stuff up to me because they didn't want to make, because, you know, if it was whether it was their friend or they didn't want to hurt the person's feelings. I mean, that, at the end of the day, everything that happens falls on me. And I've done that, even though I'm like, well, that's a cop out. You're only doing this because they're your friend and they're, a big supporter of you, all right, I'll tell them. And then now they're mad at me, but that's the job of the business agent. It all comes down at the end of the day. It's all up to me. Everything good they did and everything bad I did. That's just the way it goes. But politics sucks. It's awful. I mean, look, these guys, Mike and James and all those guys going campaigning all the time. Man, not me. I don't want to do it. I mean, you have to do it, but I ain't doing it for 2 years. I'm like they've been doing. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, you're troopers for sure.
Yeah. No, yeah. I'm on Mike Carev's campaign, and
Same.
when he told me, when he was going to start campaigning and that he needed my help, I've campaigned before, at the local level, but just even national, right? But just even campaigning for that long, like it's brutal, right? Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, like I said, this is my second election. I ran unopposed for my second term. So the ticket was announced at the national convention. I think it was late July, early August. I don't remember. And that's when you started campaigning. You had a month and a half to campaign. And my opponent then, Mike Walquist, we went to several branches at the same time. We went to events together, campaigning. Me and Mike were cordial. Me and Mike to this day, there's no problem between me and Mike. Never was. I don't know how it's going to go. I mean, I do my best. I'm not going to bash Debbie. Debbie did a good job until until the falling out, and it is what it is.
Yeah, politics is tough. I like hearing from two people at the same time, though. I like that.
Yeah. All right. Next question is: what is your most memorable or significant arbitration decision for members in Region 2?
I guess it only affected the deaf and hard of hearing, but I won that deaf and hard of hearing case up in Anchorage. That was a good one. The biggest one's probably the Portland After Dark, which I won in 2015, and hopefully I win again here in a month. Yeah, man.
Can you tell everyone what Portland After Dark is, in case people don't know?
Oh, okay. So in Portland, and don't file this grievance because no one else has ever gotten it. And no one else is ever going to get it. They signed an agreement in 1984 that carriers couldn't work after dusk is actually what it is. That, they couldn't work after dusk. They couldn't get the mail delivered. So then they arbitrated the after dark language in 2002. They upheld it on a past practice. They arbitrated again in 2003, upheld on a past practice. And then somewhere along the line, Branch started getting $50 a day. So every day, if you're still on the street at dusk, you get $50. So they tried to negotiate their way out of it in 2015, and the arbitrator rule is outside the 22 items. So, they should have that forever. But several places have tried it. I don't know, at several national conventions, a resolution came up for after that, the national negotiate after dark language. You always got, I think it might've been Ron Gossel from Fairbanks, Alaska, and go up to the mic. I'm from Alaska, and if we couldn't deliver after dark, I could only work 6 months a year or something, whatever he said, but it was the same every time. So, that's a big one. I have some key cases. I'm getting old. Memory, and since I've been business agent, I think I've only done 10. So I did, most of them were, decade ago, but I've only done 10 since being business agent, which, I love doing them. I'd like to do more, just schedule wise. Doesn't really work out all the time.
I got one you can have. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, Matt's got one I can have too. I don't want that one. But I don't know which one you have. I really don't. James just gives me numbers, and that's, he asked me if I want to do the Portland After Dark, and I was like, yeah, I mean, I did the last one. I might as well do this one.
I love it. All right, totally randomly drew this one from the bowl, but it fits. What have you done to ensure that Region 2 has one of the highest arbitration win rates in the country?
I mean, the only thing you can do to make sure Region 2 has the highest win rate is pick good advocates. You got good advocates, you mentor them, you train them, and like we go, and Nora, you can attest to this. Either me or James will be at their first several hearings and watching to see if they're ready to go on their own. Look, it's no shame not to have what it takes to be a good advocate. I mean, there's very experienced large branch presidents in the past who became advocates, and it just wasn't their thing. There's very good stewards, excellent stewards who never want to see the inside of a hearing, even though they've been trained, never want to see the inside of a hearing. It's something that it's not for everybody, because you got the pressure for these advocates, and you got everybody out there needs to thank every advocate out there, because that's it. There is no, it's step, at Formal A, you kick it up to Step B. Step B kicks it up to us. We get it, and that's it. It ain't going nowhere else. If you lose the grievance on the arbitration on somebody gets their job back, there's no appeal. They're fired. They're gone. You lose a big issue like Portland After Dark's a huge issue. It's millions of dollars on the line. If I lose that, that's a lot of pressure, and these advocates have to deal with that. Every hearing they go into, there's a lot of pressure. Very rarely do you go in one and you're like, well, it's not a big deal if I lose this, because they're all in. I'll say the Region 2 advocates are all ultra competitive. They don't want to lose any. And I think I'll speak for probably the 5 or 6 advocates I've had. They've never lost an arbitration. They've lost a bunch of decisions, but not once have they ever come and said, yeah, I lost that. I kicked their butt, and then they get the decision they lost. But that was because the arbitrator made a poor decision. The advocate didn't do anything wrong, which I believe we win the hearing almost every time.
100%.
Might lose a decision, but.
Yeah. Real quick to sort of just tack onto that. I know National for a bit there was not doing their national advocate training. You want to tell everybody what we did about it?
Yeah. So
I'm just going to call this a softball, but I think it's really cool. So
yeah, we have been, national advocate training, which I never went to, by the way. The business agent at the time just called and said, hey, do you want to do an arbitration? I'm like, sure. So I went and did my first one. I had no idea what I was doing. Luckily, it was a discipline case. It was a letter warning. I went in there and management had put their case on first, so I just kind of watched what he was doing and then just kind of tried to go along with what he did. I lost, but that's all right. So they weren't going to train advocates, and we had asked, and they said they didn't have any training planned for. They didn't know when the next training was going to be, and we need advocates bad. We just filled our panel again. We were running into, for the first time ever, having to give back dates because we just we didn't have enough advocates to fill them. So we said, we're going to do our own arbitration advocacy training. And we picked a date. We wanted to do it at the end of last year, but nothing worked out. So I sent an email to the branch president and said, give me names of people you want to do your cases. If they go through with this, and I assign them to one of your cases, I don't want to hear you complain about it, right? Because you picked them. I mean, obviously, if they go through training and they stink, we're going to be like, all right, well, we're not going to use them. So what we did is we end up with 14 people. We brought them into SeaTac, a hotel in SeaTac, right across the street from the airport. They 14 people all came there. We trained all the advocates. We went in, we trained them for a week. They put on 2 arbitrations, and those were the people we were going to use. And right, I think a few weeks ago, whenever they sent it, they did schedule a headquarters training in April. So we are going to send 2 people from that class to the headquarters training, and we're going to send the people we're going to have do cases to headquarters training as long as they have it. But we couldn't wait. It was up in the air whether we were going to have an advocate training. We needed advocates. So, all right, we got great advocates in our region. We'll train them ourselves, and we'll put them in a hearing room.
Yeah, it was awesome. They all did really good.
They did. They all did good.
Yeah.
That was the recent one, right? On
Yeah,
Region
like
2 Facebook?
last week or the week
Okay.
before.
March 9th to the 13th, whatever it was.
I saw the pictures, on Facebook. That's cool. Could you work with whoever gets elected for the top spots in the NALC executive board?
Yes. Yeah. Look, I mean, it blows my mind that, you get called a bootlicker because you support your president. That's our job as executive council, to support the president, right? You can disagree with him. I've disagreed with Brian. We've had some interesting conversations, which may have had some, between us, may have had some 4-letter words in it, right? But at the end of the day, we support the president, right? And that's what we have to do as executive council. We support. When we disagree with them, we tell them we disagree with them. We don't have to be public about it. We don't have to do it online. We don't, but we can disagree with them in the council room. We can disagree with them over the phone. We get something we don't like, we can call them up. We can make an appointment and go see them, and express our concerns. But it doesn't have to be, disagreeing to disagree for political reasons. I think it's complete crap. But the fact that, I support our president get called a bootlegger, that's just ridiculous. Whatever. I'm going to support, the president's the president. And our job is NALC. And that's one thing. After all this nonsense is over, December 2026, there's going to be a new executive council. Will it be one person slate? I highly doubt anybody's going to sweep the slate. And no matter what, those 28 council members, whether I'm on it or not, they got to support the president that's elected and put all this bullshit aside. We have to come back together. Solidarity is one union. This 2 years of infighting has been ridiculous. You have your right to not like what the president's doing. You have your right to run against them. Absolutely.
All right. Calvin has a burning question from somebody for you.
What is your favorite color?
What is what?
Your favorite color.
My favorite color?
Yeah, I swear.
Oh, I was like, what are you?
Everything I got's red.
Yeah, that's legit what they wanted to know. They were like, I'm going to take the time to fill this form out and ask him that question.
Part of the Marine Corps colors, right? Red and gold.
That is true. It's a good color. All right. And the very last question of the day. Do you believe that we need a change in leadership in the NALC?
I do not. And I say this, whatever you think about, and everybody has a right about the contract, how the contract was. But when you watch President Renfro on the Hill testifying before Congress, that's what we need. We're going to be fighting over the next few years. He's got the absolute ins in Congress. Whatever you think about him, whatever you can call him all the names you call him, no one can deny how smart the guy is. So I don't think we do. No. So call me whatever you want. I don't give a shit.
That is a strong finish. Call me whatever you want. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I like it though. I'm the same way. But you're not wrong about that. The way that man speaks to the way he speaks politics is impressive.
That's going to be the key.
For sure. So, all right. Well, we have an empty bowl.
All right.
All of the questions that the members submitted live and in real time without being prepped or knowing what they are.
All right.
Every single one.
Hey, and look, I'll tell y'all, you guys say whatever you want in the comments. I guarantee I ain't reading them. So,
yeah.
I'll tell you right now, don't waste your time going in and calling me all kinds of names. I ain't reading it.
I was gonna say, Nick, like, is there, like, I know it's all questions from the folks, but like, is there anything you would like to tell the members, in your region, basically regarding, the decision they have to make, come elections, or anything else?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been doing this 7 years now as the business agent, and I've told everywhere I've gone, and every talk I said, it's like, if if you think I'm doing a good job, okay, vote for me. If you don't think I'm doing a good job, don't vote for me. I'm going to rest well, sleep well anyway, because I've done the best job I could, and that's the only thing I can do. That's the only control I have. If it's good enough for the members, I'll get voted back in. If it's not, I won't. That's it.
Democratic. Yeah. So I think before we wrap it up, because it came up a couple times through the conversation, if you have issues, call your branch president or call the regional office. Like that was one of the things that I picked up, was that there are people that have questions or need help, and you can't help them if you don't know.
I can't fix anything I don't know anything about. And look, if you have issues with your branch president, there's a good chance I might not be able to fix it, because I can't vote them out. Only you could do that. I can advise them. I can, tell them, hey, you're on dangerous ground here with the, National Labor Relations Board or Article 10. You're on dangerous ground. Be careful. And at the end of the day, they listen to me. They don't.
It's true.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you for taking part of your Sunday to spend time and talk to us and talk to Region 2.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate Mike making the offer. This is only the second podcast I've ever gone on. So I'm not a big fan of podcasts, but Mike offered, and I was like, yeah, I'll absolutely do it. So thanks to Mike for that.
All right. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see you guys on, in the future.
Totally.
Yeah. If there's time.
I thought I was going to get to argue with him, but all right. Maybe.
Man. Well, make sure he knows that you want that opportunity. Bring him back.
You can't run forever.
It's true.
We talk enough at council. Yeah.
I love it.
All right. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right. We appreciate you too, Nick. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thanks, Sarah.
everyone. Thanks, Sarah.
No problem.
Yeah. Thanks, Sarah.
Quiet in the corner.